Show. All right. Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to the Bodkins Show. I am that dude Bodkins. We'll be joined by some guests here shortly to kind of wrap up our UFC post UFC 276 post show. We had our pre-show yesterday. If you missed that last yesterday, go check that out. Um, you know, you can check it. Don't check it out now, but check it out later. We'll be wrapping everything up here shortly. We're gonna have a few guests come on. Kenny and Craig joined me yesterday. Kenny is doing some dad duties right now, and then he is going to be hopping on. Craig lost the title last night. That's right, Craig lost the title. If you've been following our show for a little while, each UFC show we do picks. There's a belt on the line. Craig was the reigning champ until last night when he picked Max Holloway, and we saw Max Holloway get pieced to death by Alex Volkanovski. And then the title has now changed hands. So Craig is running with the title. We can nowhere be found. I don't know if he's got locked in the hooker's basement again, but Craig's nowhere to be found yet with the title. Kenny's doing some dad duties. We're going to have another little special guest coming on here shortly. So, yeah, I mean, what a show. What a show last night. The card, I would say, to me, lived up to its billing. I mean, there was a little bit of I don't really know if it lived up quite to its billing. I mean, there's a couple disappointments. We'll talk about, the Sugar Show, and you know that fight did not go obviously as well. Pedro Munoz, I was thinking what the guy's name was at first, that he beat, or I mean didn't even Pedro Munoz. That fight didn't. It was a no contest. Some great fights on the prelims. We're going to talk a little bit of Cowboy Cerrone. He hangs it up. Jim Miller. I mean, I picked Cowboy as my dog of the week, dog on the card, and that did not go so well. The Cowboy hangs it up. It was the last ride for the Cowboy. I think the writing was on the wall. He even admitted so. Like, he probably should have been done even before the Conor fight. But the guy's going into the Hall of Fame, UFC Hall of Fame. I mean, if there was an MMA Hall of Fame, Cowboy Cerrone would go there. Even like the great casuals would tell you they at least know who Cowboy Cerrone is. He's been around a long, long time. He hangs it up after a second round loss to Jim Miller. The first round, I thought Cowboy looked pretty good. I mean, he just looked taller and better, but then slips on a kick. Jim Miller is able to get the guillotine. I mean, and then he is able to get Cowboy's hands. I mean, Cowboy couldn't even get in there to look like he was going to tap. But the ref was able to, get a good angle. Cowboy, you could see, just taps a little. So we'll talk a little bit of Cowboy, get these guys' thoughts on the retirement of Cowboy. Jalen Turner, I mean, holy shit, this guy is 6'3" and weighs 155 pounds, and he beats Brad Riddell in about 45 seconds, and that's not an easy task. Brad Riddell's a tough out, folks. He's the number 14th was like number 14th ranked lightweight. I mean, lightweight, that the max you can weigh is the lightweight at 155 on the scale, 156, if it's not championship. But how is a 6'3" Jalen Turner weighing at 6'3", 155 pounds? I'm 6'4". I'm 6'4". I probably haven't weighed 100, and I'm not, in the greatest shape in the world, but I'm in rounds of shape. But I weigh about 160. I weigh about 260. 260, and I've been, I go to the gym at least 3 times a week. Jalen Turner weighs 155 at least for 30 seconds every few months. It would take me months to get to 155, and I don't even know if I could get to 155. And I'm 6'4", he's 6'3", and he looks jacked. He's going to be a problem, a real problem at 155, folks, is Jalen Turner. uh, Jalen Turner is going to be a problem at 155. The dude is 6'3". There's not a 155er that's big. I mean, they're all smaller guys. I mean, you have to weigh 100. Like I said, when you're 6'3", you should be fighting at middleweight or lightweight, light heavyweight, or even heavyweight. But somehow Jalen Turner is able to get his ass down to 155 for 30 seconds, and then he just bulks right back up. I mean, he was probably weighing at 170 last night. We know that, maybe even a little bit more, but still, I mean, I probably haven't seen myself, even in the best of my shapes. I probably haven't weighed 155 since I was probably a freshman in high school, and that was damn near over 20 years ago. I mean, that's the thing, is that how does that guy get down to 155? He's going to be a real problem. It's got power, size. It's going to take a lot. We'll get our thoughts on both the title fights. I thought the coolest thing of the whole Izzy fight was the entrance last night. The entrance was better than the fight, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, the Izzy coming out in the old Undertaker, boom, that was pretty cool. We had a girl coming out to HBK. I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. So that was pretty cool. So there's some good prelim fights. Picks didn't go my way. So if you were following me and we followed yesterday's show, I probably did the worst of the picks. We'll kind of get into all that here. Some little house cleaning stuff. So again, check out Let's Talk Sports. Yesterday we did a little NBA roundtable. Me and the guys from the Sports Buffoons with Dan Harris on Let's Talk Sports. We talked all NBA, just kind of who we thought was winning so far the NBA free agency, and a little bit of other things, who we think where KD is going to go. So we talked a little bit of all that. So make sure you check out the Let's Talk Sports. Make sure you subscribe and follow. Don't forget, folks, speaking of following, we are at 44 subscribers on the YouTube. So once we get to 50, we need 6 more. That's right, 6. I'm just asking for 6 more subscribers here. And to come on and subscribe, and we're going to give a free t-shirt. Our very first ever giveaway. You're going to get the very first Bodkins Show t-shirt. That's right. You get to be the first person. I don't know how big this thing will ever grow. I don't know how long I'll keep doing it, but I'm going to keep doing it for a long, long time because, well, folks, I suck at everything else. One thing I've always been good at is talking to people and talking sports. I suck at golf. I have no good hand-eye coordination. I don't have patience to fish. So this is my hobby. So I'll be coming at you alive quite a bit and coming towards you a lot, probably. Maybe we'll bring on some of my kids eventually when they get a little older and they want to do this shit, because that'd be quite a lot of fun. My son Jaden's starting to get into sports, loves basketball, so maybe he'll come on eventually. But yeah, so but I mean, if we get to 50 subscribers, we're just asking for 50, folks. Right now we're at 44 yesterday. So hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on anything other than YouTube, please follow us on the YouTube. Head over to the YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Once we get to 50, we're going to be giving our first giveaway, and you get to be the very first owner of the Bodkin Show t-shirt. I don't even have one. We're getting it made, though. And we got it. Adam McNally said, let's do a show. Yes, 100%. Speaking of Adam, I was on his show, Let's Talk It Sports. I was on his show, was it Friday? I don't even know. My days are running together here. Friday night. So check out his show. We talked a lot of Cubs for all my baseball fans out there. And I was probably a lot of profanity laced on my end because, I mean, if there's one thing I get fired up about, it is the Chicago Cubs and their shitty ass owners and things like that. So yeah, we are still waiting on a few guests here. I'm just trying to stall here. Also, don't forget tomorrow, I'm going to be on the Bodkins and Buffoons, or Buffoons and Bodkins. We're still working on that name there. But me and Tanner are going to be doing a show. We're going to have some guests. Yeah. Also, Adam said Friday and NFL. Thanks, and at NFL Outdated joined us. That's right, he did. We talked to all Cubs. Make sure you give those guys a follow on Twitter, and you know, hit their subscribe button as well. We're a community here. People helping people, folks. Like, that's what life's all about. That's what we're all about here at the Bodkins Show. You know, is people helping people. I firmly believe in that. I, you know, I might say some crazy ass shit, but I you know, I keep it real, and I never try to hurt nobody, offend anybody. I always want to be honest with people. All right, our first guest and is coming on right now. I'm gonna get hold on. I got to put up my phone so I get all this shit right. This guy is a living legend out of Philadelphia. The only guy bigger in Philadelphia is fucking Rocky. The guy's bigger than Donovan McNabb. He's bigger than Allen Iverson. He's better than Joel Embiid. He is the owner and founder of the Unity Podcast Network, host of the Frank and Tank Show, part of the media with the Philadelphia Flyers. That's something we don't really talk here on the podcast show. It's hockey, but gonna join us to talk about our post UFC 276 show. He was kind enough to let me come on yesterday on his show, so make sure you check out Frank the Tank Podcast. I was on there yesterday. Give it up for the Philadelphia legend, Mr. Frank the Tank. Frank, thank you for joining us, my man.
Thank you for that intro. That was pretty exciting. I mean, I was compared to some living legends out here in the 215 area, but the one that really threw me off the most, everybody always goes to Rocky. You know, it's funny because, you know, obviously Rocky, a great movie. I'm a big fan of realistically the second one. People like to debate that, of course, but you know that Rocky is actually inducted in the Boxing Hall of Fame as a movie character. With that being said, Bodkins, thanks for having me on. It's good to see you again. Great show last night. Thanks again for having me on. And we got to talk a little bit about the fights last night. Shout out to Adam for introducing us. I mean, wouldn't be happy, you know, wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for him. So definitely shout out to the big guy. But thanks for having me on, Bod. Appreciate it.
Thanks again, Frank, as always. And Frank, if you guys are checking, you want to follow Frank the Tank, Frank, go ahead and let them know where they can follow all your stuff at. Go ahead and get those plugs in real quick.
For sure. Appreciate that, man, to get that right out of the way. So on Twitter, Frank the Tank Podcast, been going strong for about 4 years now. Sports show, covering all sports. We're going to cover badminton one of these days. At Tankin 41, TANKIN 41, at Tankin 41. That's the podcast. Twitter, we're active. Frank the Tank Show on Facebook. My personal Facebook, I'm always okay with people following. You get to see some good stuff. Frankie James. And then my personal Twitter, which is a lot of my media stuff and a lot of my hot takes and cupcakes, where I like to debate the fans on some sports, is at Frankie Stesk. Give me a follow.
All right, appreciate it, Frank. And now, finally joining after doing it, both of y'all we're all dads here, so I know Frank, you were doing some dad duties. And Mr. Smoking Amigo, the one and only Kenneth Miller, regular of the show, is joining us as well. Kenny was doing some dad duties as well. So, gentlemen, appreciate y'all taking your time out, joining us to talk about our UFC 276 show, post show here. Kenny, Craig is running. Frank, we do picks every show for our pre-shows. And the title holder last month was Craig. Now the new title holder is Mr. Smoking Amigo Kenny Miller with I think you were perfect last night. Perfect picks last night on the main card, other than the no contest, which nobody can win, and we'll get into all that. But Craig is running. Craig is running from the title. He's refusing to give up the title and belt. He's locked in a hooker's basement. You know, they're just doing nasty things with that belt that we can't even speak on here because we try to keep it PG-13, Frank. So,
to the best of anyway, right? I mean, Italian from Philadelphia, sometimes it can be tough.
Yeah, so I mean, he's getting that last soak in with the title with you know, before he has to hand it over to Kenny. But boys, I mean, what a show. I don't know. I was just kind of talking before you guys got in here. I don't know if it really lived up to quite the billing as we all thought it might. We'll kind of get the grades at the end. But before we talk the main card, what are your guys' thoughts? And we'll go with you, Frank, since you're the special guest on here first. Frank, what's your one takeaway from the prelims or early prelims, last night?
Some good fights. I mean, you and I got to talking about it a little bit yesterday on the Fred and Tank show, and exactly what you had said. It kind of proved that once again. These prelim fights, man. Some of these fights could be on the main card. Um, Watching the main card, you kind of knew what you were going to expect to see. Bigger names. Obviously, we see them more, but prelims, they continue to live up to the hype, man. It was good stuff all the way around. It's hard to really say anything bad about it.
Kenny, what's your one takeaway here from the prelims?
No, I definitely agree with what Frank said, man. These prelim cards, you get these young, hungry guys that are trying to make a name for themselves, and they know they got to go for some finishes, and you end up getting some good fights out of there. I hate to pick anybody out because Frank didn't, but my one takeaway, man, I kind of expect a little more out of Ian Gary last night, I think. Him and Macy Barber, those are my prelim picks, and I expect a little more, but they both got wins, so I'm not too upset, But no, man, prelims definitely lived up.
Yeah, my one takeaway was that Jalen Turner, I don't know how the fuck he cuts down to 155. I mean, Frank, I don't know how big you are, but me and Kenny are both big boys. We're both about 6'3", 6'4", 260s on a good day. If
220.
Yeah. So none of us three are cutting down to 155 anytime soon. Probably haven't seen 155 in a decade.
That's accurate.
And this guy gets to weigh 155 at least for 30 seconds. I believe he's going to be a real problem at 155. There's some killers. 155 is a killer division. And I just kind of want to ask you, leading into that, what's next for Jalen Turner? I mean, he made 45 seconds of work of Brad Riddell, and I was kind of looking at the rankings. I mean, I don't know who's next for him. He'll have a number next to his name now, and I was just kind of looking at the rankings. Armin, I don't know how say his last name because I'm awful at saying names, but it looks like Turskanian, who just lost last weekend to Germont. He's 11. Maybe they do that matchup. I mean, I don't want to feed Tony Ferguson, Turner. And then you're getting into, the upper echelon, RDA and Rafael Fizie's fight next weekend. Maybe he gets the loser of that fight, and then the rest is just a logjam there at the top of a who's who of that 155 division.
That lightweight division is just intense. I mean, we were talking a little bit about it yesterday about some of the top fights of the last 2.5 years because they've all been incredible. And every fight that you and I mentioned is in this division. With Dustin and Justin, Gaethje, Chandler. This division. Man, it's one of those fights where you lose one, you could fall. You could fall depending on how high up you are on the ranks. But I really don't know what's next. I really don't know what could be next for him. I'm excited to see. It's a good fight, but there's a lot of talent within this division.
Kenny, what do you think here?
Yeah, I think Sarukian, man, I think you're probably right on, hit the nail on the head there. Everybody else is kind of in that range where he needs to be fighting. They kind of can't fight. Frank was talking about how stacked the division is. Charles keeps talking about wanting to fight Connor for the belt. Connor's ranked 12th in the division. You know what I mean? Like, that's how stacked of a division it is. So I think you look at it, everybody up there, man, that's Ferguson's retirement fight if you feed him Jalen Turner right now. You just don't want to do that to him. So I think you're right. I think Sarukian, it'll be a guy that you can justify moving him into the top 10 after that win. You can almost do it after the Brad Riddell win, but no, I think that works, man. I think that works.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I mean, I didn't want to feed him Tony Ferguson because Tony Ferguson's still floating in outer space after that head kick, that punt that Mike Chandler gave him the last fight.
How did his face realistically get like that? Like when they do that freeze and their faces, like when they show some of them, even when we were talking about the Masvidal when he had gotten dropped, and when Ferguson got kicked in the face and then they froze it and stopped it, I was like, this can't. I thought I was watching Scooby-Doo or something. Like it was like a cartoon. It's just how did he, and I'm not laughing because listen, I trained for 3 years and I get it. That kick in the face is no joke. But how did he get his face like?
his soul
Him,
left
him
his
and
body.
Frankie Edgar, man, both of them. Him and Frankie Edgar both got made into old men real quick, and it's some weird looking stuff when you see them videos, man, them pictures.
Yeah, and then he's still floating around somewhere with
Yeah.
him.
Oh yeah. Yeah. His soul left his body. And then before we get into the main card here too, Cowboy, I kind of I let off the show with it. Cowboy Cerrone putting the cowboy hat and the gloves in. Kenny, what's your we'll go to here. What's your lasting take of the Cowboy's last ride last night? And as he rides into the UFC Hall of Fame.
Man, you know how I am. I love a dude that's a dog. And I think when you talk about a dog, it's Cowboy. These fighters say anytime, any place, anywhere, and he's one dude that's always meant it. Didn't matter if it was 1 week short notice, 2 weeks. He'll fight anybody, anytime, different weight class. Don't need a cut, don't need to train, and you got to appreciate a guy like that. Unfortunately, it didn't really turn into a lot of victories for him, but it did make him almost like that Nate Diaz type, where you don't have to win a lot to be a fan favorite and make a lot of money and just be kind of a legend. And I think you wish you got a win on the way out. Jim Miller's still a tough out, man. So it sucks for Cowboy. It's going to be sad to see him go. You kind of brought the nostalgia factor with like him and Robbie Lawler yesterday on that card. Man, these old guys that we watched growing up, they're on the way out. So, I mean, that it kind of hurts. But it was good to see Cowboy at least comfortable. He looked like he was happy going out. He didn't get a win, but he seemed like he got to go out on his own terms still, got a retirement fight. So, long time in the middle. Joe Lowe's fight just fell through over and over, man. So,
yeah, you got to be happy that your Uncle Jim there took home the win. So Frank, what's your lasting images of the Cowboy? Your thoughts here?
It's kind of ironic because one of the main questions I asked you, like we didn't expect him to win, and that wasn't like what we were really taking away from the fight. The biggest thing that we took away, you and I, we were having the conversation was this the end?
Frank, I think you're frozen, big dog.
Oh no! Don't tell me that. Check one.
All right, I can hear you. There you go. It must
okay.
Be on mine. There, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, usually I have pretty good service. I have an Ethernet connected in. But like I was saying, was he going to retire? And, I know you said he had one more fight. He was going to get to the 50. And I said, I'm just not really sure. And we saw it. But the takeaway on a little bit about him and his career, I mean, what he, to me, when I think about him is just the intensity of just getting in the ring, whether it be on 3 hours or 2 weeks. I mean, he never said no to a fight, and with more fights you have comes more chance to lose. So that record really doesn't justify for his career. It shows that he's had a lot of fights, and the reason why he's had a lot of fights was because he never said no and he never backed down. Hall of Famer, one of the best, ambassador of the sport. Yeehaw, Cowboys Cerrone, man. Best of luck in the future. One of the best.
Yeah, you're 100% right. There's very few guys that get bigger than the belt in this game.
Well said.
The Diaz brothers, they don't ever need a belt. Conor doesn't need a belt the rest of his life. Cowboy is 100% on that level as far as he just never needed to win the title, to be a fan favorite, to make money, to be, people love that. Anytime, any place. There's very few guys out there. Anytime, any place. No excuses. I'll fight heavyweight. I'll fight flyweight. I'll do whatever it takes. I mean, that's just that's just the Cowboy. It was a nickname, but it was also a mantra. That anytime tough guy. Here at the Bodkin Show, we wish you the best of luck, whatever it is you do, Cowboy. It sounds like he's going to go be a movie star. He'll be great at it. He'll get some followers and things like, following from the community, UFC community. So, that's we'll leave it at that. But yeah, just very few guys that, they don't need the belts to be bigger than, they're bigger than the belt, and Cowboy falls right in that line. All right, boys. So let's hop right into it. The main card here, it kind of started out with a dud with the O'Malley and Pedro Munez. I mean, Kenny, let's get your thoughts here on, our boy Sugar Show and Pedro Munez, the no contest, the fight that never really got going.
Yeah, man, it was sad to see it go that way. You know, the first round was a little slow, feeling out process, a lot of leg kicks from Pedro. Sean was kind of getting his distance, but that second round, man, kind of right when the eye poke happened, you kind of see both guys, like Pedro's corner has said, hey, you got to do something after that kick, and he was starting to. And Sean's corner said, hey, you've got to do something besides just get the distance. You got to stick again, and he was starting to, and it was sad to see you go down that way because I think the second half of that fight would have been a pretty good fight for the fans, pretty good fight for everybody, and a good way to start the card. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, it's no contest. Both guys look like they probably need to just run it back and get this thing over with.
Frank, what do you think, buddy?
I think I called you for a reason last night, right after this fight ended. Immediately, I called you. I mean, I continuously watched the eye poke, and this fight was kind of embarrassing. I saw a lot of defense. Sean, Sean played a lot of defense. There was a defensive fight here. He's typically, and he's big. I mean, you can see the size advantage. He's typically one that goes after attacks. He's patient, waits for it, but he does deliver, and he goes in hard, and he typically connects, and the fight's over. A lot of defense. I mean, he defended a lot with the kick, checked a lot, and those kicks were flying in also from Pedro. I mean, some double, triple kicks that are flying in. And that was one of my things that I specialized in when I used to go was throwing heavy kicks and quick kicks, and I was incredibly impressed. I was incredibly impressed with Pedro's fight here, and I'm curious to see. Now, I mean, obviously, Sean O'Malley is one of the highest odds that we looked at yesterday. Thank you to FanDuel, of course, for the spreads, but very surprised. I want to see it run it back. I'm very surprised, and it's actually kind of drawing, I want to say red flags because, he's proven himself that he is an incredible fighter, but he switched it up a lot, man, a lot of defense. So he must have saw something and really paid attention to something during training camp that maybe not too many people are paying attention to because it was a very defensive fight.
Yeah, I think you guys both hit it right on the money there. It wasn't even that bad of an eye poke initially. I mean, his hands look straight up. Yeah, his hands look straight up like this, and just kind of was pushing off a little bit. And then I think it was like the first round too was the groin kick, but that was above the belt even. I mean, I'm kind of on the border of like Sugar. Just he didn't feel like Pedro wanted to be in there with him, and I mean, you could maybe, but I mean, when you get poked in the eye and you can't freaking see, Sean O'Malley's the one guy that you don't want to fight. One of the guys that you don't want to fight with one freaking eye. I think I do want to see him run it back. Maybe not UFC 277, but put him right on UFC 278. That'll be the Usman and Edwards card, and the nice Salt Lake City, which isn't too far from O'Malley's Arizona hometown. So I'd like to see him run it back. I mean, I think unless I wouldn't think it would take too much long for Munez's eye to heal up. I mean, what's your guys' thoughts here, Kenny?
Couple thoughts. A lot of defense from Sean. Frank's right about that. When you look at, he kind of probably took Cheeto a little lightly. I think you were going to see more defense out of him fighting a top 10 guy. He didn't want to get caught in that same situation, I think, from before. I think you got to run it back, man. I'm going to say, I don't know how Pedro did not want to be in there with him. Pedro could have kept going. I'm going to say that. Sean was getting to the point where he was starting to this is all you got? I'm really not that worried about you. And you seen that look in his eye, the same kind of look he got against Matino once he figured out, you don't belong here. Sean was going to turn it on. I don't think Pedro wanted that. They run it back. I think it's going to, if it is a decision, I think it's going to be a more lopsided decision. Hopefully they could run it back soon, 278. I don't want to say it's too far away because 77 is in 3 weeks, but get it over with because I think O'Malley's, it's going to be over quick, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money. I thought Sugar Show was about to turn it on. He was starting to get it going, I thought. And then, just that fight just was it was like he was getting it out of first gear, putting it in, hey, let's see what the engine can do here. And then the eye poke happened. I mean, Frank, is that what your thoughts on here too?
Absolutely not. 100% disagree, actually. And I'm going to tell you, and that's only because I come from a different standpoint. Just kind of like hockey, playing the game for so long, I just don't believe in the quit mentality. I mean, these guys are, one, this is their job. Two, fighting is just a whole nother thing. It's not like a soccer game where they don't try as hard. Like, and this is coming from someone that has competed in this sport and trained in this sport for 3 years. People just don't get in the ring and just decide that they don't want to do it. They don't want to be in there with certain
I don't know.
guys.
Did you see Nick Diaz's last fight? You can't tell me he didn't want to be in the ring and he quit.
He shouldn't have been allowed in the ring. It was supposed to be there in Abu Dhabi with you, hanging out, having a good time. Business being in the ring. And I'm sure we're going to talk about Lawler. He had no business being in the ring. But a comment that I want to make about this, and I'm not being a smartass or anything like that, but realistically, I just don't believe that fighters in this sport like go in the ring and then just don't want to be in there. But an interesting little stat, throughout this fight, we saw a lot of defense, so you really didn't see anything stick out too much. But this stuck out to me. Total strikes 26-41 in favor, 63.4% to 53% in favor of Pedro. Okay, then we had total strikes. Pedro also won that. No takedowns, obviously. So you see, like, the significant and the substantial strikes that happened. A lot of defense from Sean. He was not losing the fight, but when it comes to these strikes and the damage that was taken, I mean, he was taking it. And whether it be,
I would say maybe you could give Munoz. I mean, two judges gave Munoz that first round, but I mean, I just thought Sugar was about to. Yeah, I would have gave it to Munoz too. Kenny's pointing at himself, but I just thought Sugar was about to turn it on. I mean, like I said, it seemed like the car was getting ready to go. He had figured the defensive out and was ready to put it on him, like we've seen him. Kitty, you got anything to what Frank said about Pedro here?
I want to preface, Pedro wasn't quitting. When I say he didn't want to be in there, I don't mean like he was quitting. What I mean is he figured out he doesn't have what it's going to take to beat Sean O'Malley. His leg kicks, as much as they were building up his significant strike numbers, they won him that first round. They also were getting checked a lot. They weren't doing a ton of damage. Sean wasn't really looking like he was slowing down much. I think that's all I meant was, like, I think Pedro figured out the leg kick and jab wasn't going to work because Sean was just checking him and keeping him at distance. And that's what I mean. It's like his game plan is what made him not want to be in there. Not necessarily that he was not quitting. Pedro Munoz is not a quitter. I didn't mean that. I just mean he figured out, like, oh, this is not the right game plan for this son of a bitch.
And I appreciate that. And I really do. It does mean a lot. It was the biggest surprise here. This is actually a pretty interesting fight, and surprisingly, I thought this was going to be a fight that, like, we wouldn't really talk about much because of the way it was. Are we surprised about how Sean O'Malley kind of came into this fight, staying back, not just doing his thing, or are we more impressed with kind of how Pedro actually went in and attacked? And he threw some incredible kicks. I mean, really, really quick too. Like, they were fast. I'm really impressed. I thought I want to see this run back, and I think where your location is near his home, I think that's a good time. I want to see this ran back.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, though. Everybody's going
to house, and we're going to Bacchus house tomorrow. I'll call the boys.
If here's the thing is what you're saying, everybody knows, like, that's how Sugar lost his one fight, whether he wants to admit it or not, was the leg kicks, the calf kicks. So that's a target, especially when you got them long legs. He's longer than everybody else, and they're sticking out there. You can kind of get inside and reach those. That's how Cheeto beat him, whether Sugar wants to admit that or not. Cheeto was calfing those legs down. And so everybody's going to check his legs to see if he's worked on that, because that's something that he still has to continue to work, is checking those calf kicks, because that's something that he's been vulnerable to. So, I mean, that seemed like Munez's plan going in was attack the legs, chop the tree down low, and then, then go to the top, is, what Pedro looked like he was doing there in round number one. So we're all in agreement there. We'll kind of end it right there on that. Move on to the next one. We're all in agreement. Run it back. UFC 278 there in Salt Lake. I think that's probably a card that probably could use a little help there in Salt Lake anyway. So Frank, you alluded to it. Robbie Lawler probably shouldn't have been in there. I thought early on, Robbie looked like he was turning back the clock. I put it in our group chat. I said, shit, Robbie looks like he's turning back the clock, but it looked like Bobby just too much output, too much hands. I mean, Frank, you said, Robbie shouldn't have been in there. So let's defend that take here.
Yeah, I will. And I think because of the fact that towards the end is when I was really like, ooh, this is not looking good. They were tired. They were swinging, connected. And I love a good stand-up brawl. I mean, who doesn't? But you start to see it settle in where he nearly couldn't defend himself. And that's why essentially the fight stopped. And that's where I'm just like, man, you you should, like, I don't want to say you shouldn't be in there because, man, listen, fighters punch, you get in there, you never know what can happen, especially with these two guys, because that's all they did was swing and they connected and some incredible shots. I mean, you're always surprised to see how, like, Lawler takes it. And he did, until he just couldn't do anything anymore, and they stopped the fight. And I'll give props to the ref. A little shout out to him, because I think he stopped the fight at a perfect time, because he knows how Lawler fights. Give him the chance. Let him still continue to do something. But when it looked like it was just going nighttime, he jumped in there, stopped the fight. Have to give him a lot of credit, because that's a tough decision to make. But overall, good stand-up fight, man. I mean, exciting, entertaining, bloodshed. But you and I got to talk yesterday about it. We kind of said that Robbie Lawler maybe stopped a couple fights ago. But I think this may be, probably over his time now.
Kenny, what's your thoughts there? I mean, I see you shaking your head for the most part here.
Yeah, for sure. I think both of you guys are spot on with the open and with the analysis. I think, yesterday I said something. One of my buddies had said that he was excited for Robbie Lawler, and I said, quit lying to yourself. Nobody on the planet's excited for Robbie Lawler. And I'll be honest with you, at least for a round and a half, man, I was excited to watch Robbie Lawler fight.
It's exciting.
He was going after it. He looked. I made a joke yesterday because he said that Nick Diaz got him excited about fighting again. And I was like, you didn't look excited, but he did last night. And I think that he kind of felt after that first round that he went for a couple finishes in there. You could tell he kind of gassed himself, maybe, like Frank said, man, both them guys was tired. And eventually somebody was going to get caught. We said on the pre-show yesterday that fight wasn't going to go the distance. But Robbie doesn't care to get knocked out. He's fine. He's done it before, and he'll try to knock you out. And it was an exciting fight, though. Good stand-up fight. What do you got, Frank?
I got a stat for us. And actually, if you guys don't mind, each fight that we kind of mentioned, afterwards, I'll hit us with some of the stats from the fight.
Go ahead, man. Kenny's usually the stat guy, but you can take over that area if you want.
I'm sorry, Kenny. I didn't know that, my friend.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's just an inside joke, Frank. Inside joke there.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I didn't want to step on everybody's toes. Now I feel bad for even doing it. Why had to start the shit, brother? Oh, sorry. So here's one. Ready for this? Total strikes from Brian. He threw 317. Okay, significant strikes 316. Robbie Lawler landed the percentage more, but obviously cut in half. He only threw like 141. Brian was, I think he threw about 85 to 125 just in the last 12 seconds of the fight. These guys were swinging. I'm curious to see what's next for Brian. I'd love to get your take on that, actually, if you don't mind me asking. But little numbers for you guys.
Yeah, no, we usually kind of ask that towards the end, kind of what's next for everybody here. My thoughts, you were spot on the money, Frank, though, with the ref stoppage. Great stoppage. I mean, it was perfect. I think Robbie Lawler thought he was fighting Nick Diaz for a minute because went for the knockout kill. And he looked good for, a round and a half. But, the difference is, Marina wasn't quitting like Nick Diaz did. He wasn't just going to stop and just quit in the middle of the fight. I don't really know what's next. I mean, that's 3 for the Bam Bam there. I didn't even know the guy's nickname was Bam Bam. I don't even like calling him Bam Bam because Bam Bam Tuivasa is the only Bam Bam I acknowledge. But, I don't really know what's next. He shot his shot money-wise. I appreciate that. He said, Dana, give me 100,000, baby.
100,000 shekels, baby. Get yourself a couple of olives at the local strip joint.
Hey, I enjoy that. Shooting your shot. I mean, he's a guy who's kind of been around a little bit, trying to get some momentum. I'm not saying let's give him a rank guy, but give him somebody that's, kind of, jockeying at that, welterweight. The welterweight division is just tough, very tough as well. But, give him somebody, kind of middle and right around where he's at, kind of pushing that 15 rankings. I mean, that was probably his biggest fight of his life when you're able to get a stoppage of a former UFC champion. Like we said yesterday, I think Robbie probably should just hang it up. He didn't put his gloves in. Maybe he'll fight one more. He wanted to give Cowboy his day, and then hopefully he'll give one more. But, Kenny, what's your thoughts here on Mr. Barberino?
I was looking at what's next, and I think you're right. I was looking at number 15, at Michael Pereira. I like the way he fights. I think it's good, kind of go out there and throw him in. Pereira's an exciting guy. He's probably not going to beat any top 10 guys. I think we kind of know that, but he's going to make you earn a win against him too. So I'd say throw him out there against a guy like that that's right there at 15 and give him a ranked dude and just kind of see. I mean, Lawler's not a ranked guy. I mean, we know that. So beating him doesn't say a lot. But let's go see what the guy's got too. So he, like you said, he's won 3 in a row, but it's not really against anybody. So let's just go let's go see him beat somebody, you know? Because let me tell you something, 40-year-old Robbie Lawler can about knock you out in the first round. I'm not sure if you really got the top 15 guys in you, you know?
We got a comment here real quick. It's fans are coming on. Frank the Tank. Frank, appreciate you bringing some fan base. Chris, I'm gonna butcher her name probably.
Christiane Canoodle, yeah.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah,
yeah, great. Appreciate it.
It's a running joke, Frank. I read at about a 3rd grade level. I mean, it's not really running because it's kind of somewhat true. So, you know,
stop that now. You're doing fantastic.
Kitty's known me for over 20 years. He knows that this is about the best as it gets.
Righteous. 20 years. 20 years,
yeah,
friend?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. First day of 7th grade. Been friends since.
The old 7th grade, huh?
It's probably over 20 years at this point. So, I mean, Frank, what's your take here? I mean, where did each fighter go next here?
Man, Kenny had a spot on. I definitely took the words right out of my mouth. And, oh, man, Robbie, dude. I mean, you're starting to see it. And this is kind of, I guess, in whole with, Cerrone and Robbie. It's almost time now where, and no pun intended, I know you like to drop the hammer on some of these older gents, man. I mean, realistically,
we can drop it. We can drop it right here, Frank. We'll drop the hammer. It's time. Robbie Lawler. Hey, lights out, Robbie. Just for you, Frank.
I appreciate that, my brother, man. I listen. I'm in tears right now. I'm so excited. It's time to move on from a lot of these older gents, man. I mean, there's a lot of new talent out there, incredible talent. I mean, I'm still waiting for, my boy Sean Brady, a good friend of mine, to really, up and coming. I know he had some issues early on, but he's coming, and I can't wait for him to get rocking and rolling. He's an incredible guy, and I told Bobcats a little treat that maybe we could get him on for a conversation. It's time to move on with the older gents, man. They're getting up there. You don't want to see, and realistically, these guys are fighters. They'll always be fighters, but you don't want to see nobody get hurt. So this young talent that's coming in can be dangerous. You don't want to see nobody get hurt, and that's why I go back to the ref stoppage, because very, very, very important. Kenny, how we doing, brother? But I'll keep it rock and rolling. You don't want to see.
Boys, I don't know what happened there. Hold on a second. That was weird. Frank, you still with us?
I am now. I don't know what happened, man. Robbie Lawler must have got real pissed off at us. Shut it down.
Somebody said, Robbie Lawler, we need to shut Robbie Lawler down. And holy shit, I don't know what happened there. That was weird. I was still live.
We were still live. It was a little intermission break, so maybe had to use the bathroom. But to move on from what we were saying, hammer was dropped. Move on from the older guys, and let's let some of these young talent get jumping back in there.
Yeah.
I was scary.
Oh, that was weird.
I was Kenny were just looking at each other like, Kenny, I'll keep it moving. And Kenny was going.
It kicked me all the way out. Then I had to scroll down. I was like, it says I'm still live, and it's like my shit was buzzing in my ear.
About the host, guys. I don't.
Let me tell you something. Frank's a nice guy, but we don't know each other well enough to be stuck in a room together. Bodkins, what are you doing here?
My bad, y'all. My bad. So now we'll. I'm still getting over what the hell just happened. Speaking of what the hell just happened, Sean Strickland is asking that great segue here. Sean Strickland's asking the same fucking question. I mean, I thought Crazy Sean I picked Crazy Sean, but I mean, I didn't realize Crazy Sean was that crazy to stand and try to bang with Alex. I don't know. Is it Pereira? I felt like everybody was saying his name differently last night. My wife's like, "You're saying it wrong. It's D's in Brazil, so I don't know if it's Pereira. But either way, holy shit, the big scary Brazilian is really big and he's really fucking scary, y'all." Kenny, you had your hand raised there. I mean, I know that was your guy going in. So go ahead and give it to us. Talking about Mr. Alex here.
Remember on Wednesday when Sean Strickland said Alex Pereira is not a good striker, bro? I think that's what he said. He said, not a good striker, bro. He said all he can do is hit you from 30 feet away and kick you in the face. Or he can give you a left hook and then a right hook that puts your absolute lights out, Sean Strickland. That dude had the wobbles, bro. And, you know, I said yesterday on the pre-show, I said Sean's the kind of guy that wants to keep you at distance and just point you to death, and you can't do that with a guy like Pereira, right? That's what I said. And he went out and said, Kenny Miller, you are a motherfucking genius. So pretty much all I got to say about that, man. Pereira did his job. Sean Strickland looked kind of like what he is.
I mean, Frank, Sean Strickland looked like I did when my early 20s, getting off the bar stool a couple nights, trying to chase down a fatty girl. No offense, to any overweight women. I love overweight women. Times of my life.
The only kind of women I go after, my friend. Listen, I respect that, my friend.
Hey, but I mean, look, just like me, stumbling off the bar stool looking for her. I mean, Frank, what's your take there?
Once again, you and I had the conversation. As soon as it happened, you reached out and you were like, dude, I was dead wrong. And I was like, dude, you were dead wrong. I mean, wow. I mean, look out. I mean, that was a tone setter. That was a tone setter. If you didn't believe, there's certain fights where it's like, great fight, great knockout. I'm not sure yet. No, this guy can throw some hands. I'm excited. There's certain fighters that come along. The guys like when Justin Gaethje first came in, and his first fight was one of those fights where you're like, this guy's got something. This guy's hanging in there. This guy's doing his thing. There's certain guys that come along and you watch them, and you're like, you see their first couple fights and a big win. It's like, this guy's going to do something. 100%. This guy's going to do something. Can't wait to watch his career.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, Alex G. I mean, the biggest lights on his biggest fight gave us a knockout highlight. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. When you get
in the house, it's impressive.
Hey, thanks. I probably couldn't tell you that again. Sometimes I can pull stuff out of my ass that's pretty good, Frank.
I put it down for you.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, it was prime time for him. And put his name right, stamp right in. He'll be having a single digit number next to him come Tuesday when the rankings come back out. We'll get into a little bit of Alex because we know what's kind of almost next for him, and I want to wait to that. But I mean, Sean Strickland, once he picks his jaw up from the canvas there, Kenny, what's next for Psycho Sean, crazy Sean Strickland?
The fight that he said he's kind of been trying to avoid in Marvin Vettori. I think, they both kind of said that they would do it if they had to, and I think it's kind of almost to the point where they're going to have to. Strickland, he's got to fight a top 5 guy. You don't want to throw him out there against Brunson. You know what I mean? That's not really a fight. As much as it's a fight that both guys needed to win, it's not really a fight I think the fans want to see. So I give him a dude like Vettori who's going to push a little bit of pace, and it'll be a good style fight. If you can talk them into it, I think that's kind of the one. Everybody else, man, you don't want to go too low. He already beat Jack, and that's 7. That's about as low as you want to go. I hope Rockhold beats Costa, and we never have to talk about him again, so we can just avoid that altogether, But I think Vettori kind of makes the most sense. Maybe if you want to throw him and Cannonier out there, if you want to kind of give Sean Strickland another top guy, There's things you can do, but it's got to be a top 5 guy, and Vettori kind of makes the most sense to me outside of their personal relationship.
Vettori's fighting Bobby Knuckles here in a few, I think next month or so.
Yeah, he's getting his ass kicked by Bobby Knuckles next month, though, so we can just go ahead and say that, and then they can fight, and we can figure it out, because one of those guys has got to leave the top 5. That was going to be my next thing. One of those guys got to leave the top 5, and that's how you figure that out, you know what I mean?
Frank, what's your thoughts here once, he comes coherent, Sean Strickland, who's he signing on the dotted line next?
He's got a great point, man. It's good stuff. I'm loving it. I oh, man, dude, that was good stuff. That was dead on pulse accurate, man. And I'm not gonna just do it for the sake of argument and just for this to come up with something. That was good stuff. That was accurate. I'm right there. I'm right there with Ken. Seriously, I mean, that was. What else? What can he do? I mean, I'm right there with him.
Yeah, I think I like the Jared Cannonier fight. I think that's that both coming off the losses here. You know, may if if Vittori loses, I don't really think like you said, Kenny. I think we're all both high on Bobby Knuckles. The only person we think Bobby Knuckles loses to is Izzy. And we'll talk a little Izzy obviously here in just a little bit, but I kind of like Cannonier or even Vittori if but if Vittori somehow manages a huge upset, then maybe you do Bobby Knuckles and Sean Strickland, which there's plenty of options for Sean Strickland because he hasn't fought a whole lot of these top guys, especially in up here in the top 5. But Sean's gonna have to pick his jaw up, and because Alex Pereira just knocked it out, clean to pieces. He didn't even know where he was and then hit him on the way down. I thought Alex gave him when he was falling. I thought Alex could have nailed him a few more times, but it was just nice enough and patient enough not to. So that that fight, obviously knockout of the night was right then and there was that fight, on that fight. So when we get into the co-main, I mean, I was high on Alex Volkanovski. This is where Kenny won the title from Craig because Craig, he picked with his heart and not with his head. And he picked Max Bless Holloway. Alex Volkanovski, in my mind, looked the best we've ever seen him last night. They said so on the broadcast. And we're going to, I'm sure me and Kenny are going to debate here a little bit, what Alex should do next and how he feels going forward. But, I mean, Alex Volkanovski put on a clinic last night, clean 5-0 sweep. And there's a difference in what Izzy did in his decision win versus what Alex did in his unanimous decision. I mean, he pieced up. Max Holloway was a bloody mess when he left that fight. Frank, what's your thoughts here on that fight with Volk and Max?
A couple things I want to take away from this fight. We expected Max to once again, and he's only proven everybody right when he got into an argument with the media about the whole damage thing. Well, I mean, you just show that you just continue to take damage, and it's now costing you fights. I mean, he's hanging in there, but he's just taking substantial damage. I wouldn't even have been surprised if the ref would have even stopped that. But once again, it's Max Holloway. You know how they fight. You have to respect the way that they do it. Absolute beating. I think it might have been one of the worst losses I've ever seen Max Holloway get. Total domination. If anybody didn't believe in the champ now, how can you not? But Max Holloway is still a damn good fighter, and he does hang in there. This was just an absolute beating. Man, respect for Max just because he's just one of those fighters, kind of like how you mentioned that doesn't, fights more than the belt. Just an incredible fighter, incredible guy to watch. He's still passionate about the game. I'll say this, I still think he does have some in him. Who's next though? No idea. But man, he got robbed. He got robbed. No shot. Just no shot, man. And the champs, they seem like to be one of those underrated guys. And we were talking about yesterday, like when does Charles get that higher standard? Like he's another one of those underrated champs. Like that dude destroys people. This guy absolutely destroyed Max Holloway. Destroyed him. With all due respect, of course, but he kicked his ass.
You don't have to say with all due respect here. I mean, we might need to start saying it for the internet kicks us off because Max Holloway got people too, I'm sure. Kenny, what's your thoughts here on, just a complete, demolishing of Max Holloway?
I think that Alexander Volkanovski's nickname is the Great for a reason. And my goodness, there's no question about who the featherweight GOAT is. I think that is set in absolute stone and maybe never will change. I said a lot of stuff yesterday that I did not think that Volk deserved to fight Oliveira. I didn't think he wanted to fight Oliveira. And I think as long as Oliveira wins, then that's the only fight to make for Volkanovski. I don't think there's a 145 fight for him. I think he's absolutely earned the champ opportunity. Give it to him, man. Dude, how good did he look? I mean, you never come into a fight thinking Max Holloway's going to look pretty bad after this. And Max Holloway looked like he didn't deserve to be fighting a top 5 dude. fighting that. You wouldn't have been surprised if Max Holloway didn't come out after the third round when his eye was split open like the Grand Canyon and just said, "Hey, I think I'm not going to win this one. I'm a little overmatched." You know, Max is a dog, dude. Max got zero quit in him, and to make Max look like that, you just got to tip your hat to Volkanovski in every way possible. Ortega, probably the best ground guy there is in the division, made him look bad. Survived everything he could throw at him. Max, probably the best stand-up guy in the division, made him look like he never even boxed before. What else can you say about Volkanovski besides he's the dude?
Frank, I see you probably got some stats here.
Not even stats, dude. Like I think you might be right about. I ain't breaking my stones. It's going back to kind of what you were saying about being the GOAT. I'm going down the featherweight division right now. I'm looking at some names. I don't think anybody's going to be able to touch him. Like,
No,
I mean, I just don't even. There's fighters punches and the chances, but I just don't even know if
there's some names he hasn't fought. He hasn't fought Yair Rodriguez, who's fighting Ortega. He hasn't fought Arnold Allen or Josh Emmett. But I mean, I don't think any of those guys can beat him. I mean, there's not, I mean, crazier things have happened. I mean, anything can happen when, but I mean, Volk is just so prepared. He's so game.
He's scary.
Yeah, my wife said last night he looks like a shit brick house. I mean, just the way he's built, just like a solid brick.
He's scary.
You can't break him. So what's next? We'll get into what's next for what do you guys think's next for Max, because he's 0-3 against the champ, and it's looked worse, and it looked bad, looked like he should have won maybe the second time, but last night it was no contest. We said it before, we all kind of three when I talked to all three of you. I told you guys Volkanovski's improved where Max Holloway has stayed Max Holloway. And Frank, you were on the assessment there is that the ref could have stopped that fight. I think Kenny, you said it too, with the old eye split, and his other eye. I mean, one eye was busted wide open, like Kenny said, the Grand Canyon. The other eye was closed shut. Yes. I mean, so it was exactly. So what's next for Mr. Max Bless? Is it a move to 155 here, or we've seen that. I mean, he fought for the title, the interim title once. Does have a win over Charles Oliveira way back in the day, but what's next for Mr. Bless, Kenny?
I think it's definitely a move up. I don't think it's necessarily a move up to try to make a title run. I think it's a move up because that's where the names that he's going to be able to make the most money with the rest of the fights he has left. Now, it's not that Max isn't a title content type guy, but I think you're 0-3 against Volkanovski. That's obviously not the title for you. You did bring up that he has a win against Oliveira, but that was a much different and much long ago Oliveira. I don't think he gets that win now. So if you're, and those are really the only two divisions he's going to fight in. And so I don't think if you can get the belt there, I think you can move up and try to talk Dustin into a rematch. That was a good fight. You can try to, Connor's going to try to get a title fight if he can, but that's a guy you don't mind seeing Max fight. Two big names, going to be striking battle. I do think it's a move to 155. Just that's where the bigger names and the bigger money is going to be at. Honestly, that's kind of why.
Frank, what do you think about Mr. Bless? Him going forward here?
I mean, I'll pick up where Kenny said it was a great point. I mean, he for other reasons, your reasons were legitimate. We're just going to add on now. The move has to be made, but also with the fact of obviously, for some competitive fighters, a chance to make more money because you might, get a couple wins, and that's what it comes down to. He just has no shot in this division. I don't think he has a shot. I don't want to say shot, but you guys understand what I'm saying. I'm talking more or less on like a journalist aspect of things. He's just not going to survive. He's not getting a title shot probably ever again in this division. You move up, you got some success there. A couple, definitely make some money. He started once again. Hammer was dropped. This is another one of those guys that is starting to transition out for the new guys. And I love Max. Max is exciting, but he just doesn't, like Conor McGregor said after we fought Eddie, and Eddie's a good friend. He had no business being in the ring with me. You know what I mean? When he took that, it was just, and he took a beating. He took a beating. He did. He took a beating. He's got to move on.
The thing of it is, if he moves up to 155, the guy who could be champion is the guy he just got smoked by at featherweight. And that's the thing. And that's so let's talk about that. Kenny's a big Charles Oliveira guy, and he kind of laughed at me and said on the pre-show yesterday, I said, I'll take Volkanovski in the Charles fight. And, I probably still would. I feel more confident last night
That's a
after watching
wild
Volk
fight.
last night to beat Charles Oliveira, become the double champ. If that's I believe that's what's next. And the thing of it is Volk said, I want to be in here all the time. So I'll fight both divisions. I'll defend both titles. I like the fighting man mentality. Get this guy a fight in Australia in front of his people at Melbourne. Give him the double champ status. I like that fight. I like Charles and Volk more than intrigues me more than Islam versus Charles. But that fight looks like it's already going to be happening here in about October in Abu Dhabi. So, Kenny, I mean, what do you think? Volk versus Charles, is that what's next? If Charles wins,
Charles has to win first, obviously. I do think if Charles wins, it's kind of a fight that makes sense. Charles can kind of say the same thing as far as like outside of Dariush, he's kind of beat everybody if he beats Islam. So he can kind of do the same thing that Volk's saying. Let the division figure itself out. I'll fight somebody at some time. So the fight does make sense. I'm obviously a big Oliveira guy. Volk can move up, and I know that Volk fought all the way up at light heavyweight. You know what I mean? So I know that he can move around. But man, like when he fought Max, it's 5'6" versus 5'11", and Volk still had a reach advantage. And how often is that going to happen? Not very often. It does help Volk, but a guy like Oliveira, I mean, we saw what he did to Chandler because he could poke him from 4.5 feet away. I mean, there's just not a lot of guys that can do that. And I don't think that it's going to be. You're going to have to decision Volk. You're not going to put him out. If anybody can, it's obviously Oliveira. Oliveira is just a different dude. Like I said yesterday, Volk's going to move up and fight 155 dudes who are going to be 175, 180 on fight night. That's a whole different ball game than if he was to go down and fight Aljo or Jan or one of these guys who are going to have the belt, who are a little more his size, and he can use that to his advantage. But I do think Oliveira's next. It's the biggest money fight for him and the one that kind of makes the most sense.
Frank, what do you think, man?
Taken back. I'm taken back for a couple of reasons right now. That's a fight that is just like, oh, man. I have no idea who wins that fight. I mean, and with a couple like Charles these two guys are just. This fight happens. Here we go. You're on your show right now. Here it is. This fight happens. This fight takes place. I'm coming out. We're watching it together. Now it's on your show right now, man. My word. I'm coming. I'm bringing some tasty cakes from Philadelphia, a couple other treats. I'm coming, and we're gonna watch this fight together. This is like, man, I don't even know what to say. And this fight would just be absolutely insane. I don't know who wins. Maybe I give it the edge to Charles. He's got good reach. He's just something about him. He's just, but Volk is like you said, what you were saying, what he said, he's hungry. This might be one of the best fights I think I've ever been watched. Besides the Gaethje, this is up there. This is up there. I'm coming, boys. I will come. I will come.
Doors open, Frank. Doors open. We'll show you how some Missouri boys throw down on fight night. Here's the thing. I think Volk could win that fight. Charles takes a beating. I mean, every one of his fights, he's been rocked. And I'm not saying that Volk hasn't been, but these last few fights, I mean, especially the last two fights, he's really went untouched. Zombie didn't hurt him at all. Last night, I mean, we just said that, Max Holloway says he's the best boxer in the UFC. Last night, he got pieced up. Boxed to death by Volkanovski. He didn't do any damage. I think Volk had just a little cut on his eye. It looked like a little paper cut, and that was it. Right. Other than that, Volk with them heavy hands busted Max open. Here's a guy that could make his way in to that conversation of fighting him if it's not Charles, and it's Mr. Henry Cejudo. Triple C here is making his way come back. He wants to move up to featherweight and fight Volkanovski. That would be a hell of a fight. Two pit bull dogs going at it, and I just hope Volkanovski knocks the shit out of Triple C and sends his ass back to retirement.
I got to take if you don't mind, because I have to comment on it. Boggins, if it's cool with you. Now you're just talking about a little bit about the divisions, and like we just said, who could realistically beat Volk in this division? And then you just mentioned about Charles and how he's taking the beating. I mean, Charles just went up against when he fought Poirier, who has the hardest hands in the UFC. No, my opinion. We talked about it yesterday. That dude can hit, and he's got bricks. And you got a guy like Gaethje who will stand in there, and another guy who will throw bombs. The divisions are way different. That's why Charles is taking a little bit more of a beating. It's probably the most talented division in the whole sport. It's just, I mean, it's a little tough of comparison, in my opinion. Volk's going to dominate that whole thing. He realistically probably has to move up for one competition, two. You're going to dominate everybody. In my opinion, he's going to dominate everybody. So you move up a little bit, you go for that title, great fight, and then maybe realistically you lose the title, you stick around. Now you're going to be hitting some heavy handers. You're going to go up against guys like Gaethje and Poirier. Imagine Poirier and Volk. Oh-wee. Another one. That's another great fight. I'm coming, boys.
You're exactly right, Frank. I do think. I mean, Charles Oliveira's fought the murderous row here. His last 4 fights, or so, the murderous row of that lightweight division. Kenny, I mean, go ahead. What's your thoughts here? Last thoughts here on Volkanovski.
No, Frank's spot on, man. I mean, you look up and down the division, there's just nobody in 145 that's going to touch him. He's kind of dealt with everybody. And he was spot on about Charles, man, about taking a beating, dude. He's fought the best stand-up dudes on the planet at 155. So when you look at Volk, he's not that he hasn't used the defense to not take a beating, but Max isn't a damage guy. He's a volume guy. So you're not going to take as much damage against a guy like Max. Ortega wanted to take him down. Zombie never had a shot. So not that he's at an easier road. I don't want to take anything away from Volk. I feel like I did that for a year, and I don't want to do that ever again. So I want to give him his credit, but I do think Charles had probably a much tougher road the last 5 fights, if I had, in my opinion.
All right, so boys, we saw it last night. The main event, the lights hit. Dong. It wasn't The Undertaker. It was Israel Adesanya with a hell of an entrance. And the sad thing about it was the entrance was the coolest part of the whole fucking fight. I mean, if the dongs hit and that wasn't The Undertaker, I should have just went to sleep because, it seemed like after round 2, Izzy was just on cruise control. Is Izzy just this? I mean, he's such a showmanship to the ring, but it just seems like now he's not the showmanship in the I guess the octagon is what I should say, not the ring, but in the octagon anymore. Like he's not in these battles anymore. It's just so defensive all the time. He just picks you apart. He pieces you apart, points you apart, and then we're all left dissatisfied. It's like finding that hot girl at the bar. You take her home and you get her down, and then, well, it just doesn't end too well for either one of you, and you left disappointed. Frank, I mean, that's just how I felt last night.
You got the greatest analogies ever. And the fact that the dongs, like, I'm just losing it. Great show. I love this. Thanks for having me be a part of it for sure. Right off the bat, the entrance was awesome. Now, this is a fighter that is damn near pure domination. I mean, we did watch, we talked about it yesterday about the last fight that Israel was in, and they started showing some highlights. He got caught a couple times. And I think that's now, I think that might have been who he fought.
Bobby Knuckles.
Thank you so much. Like, I think now that might have been the first time he actually got caught last fight, not the last fight that he had before this one, and it might have got him mentally to where he's like doing his thing and now playing defensive game. You take it until you get hit. You don't know what it feels like. And realistically, Israel didn't take too much of a beating, a little bit, but he actually got stuck a little bit. That last fight, I think that might have changed his style up a little bit more defensively. But once again, another fighter, like, who could beat this guy? Like, I put him up there I mean, realistically, in my opinion, Usman is there. I just don't think anybody can realistically beat him. I just don't think anybody can. And he's still an exciting fighter. Like, I love watching his fights. He's incredible. But Israel's right up there too. Like, who can beat this guy? What happens? Like, I mean, defensive or not, you're still winning the fights. You know how boring they are. Like, who beats this guy? You know what I mean? But not the most exciting fight. Defensive, he got still the champ. Yeah, I'm curious. I think that like my biggest takeaway was after this fight when I watched it was like, well, I wonder what's next for him because he's just running through.
Kenny,
Alex Pereira. That's who beat him. No, it was a defensive fight. I was curious last night. I don't want to shit on it too much, but that was basically Rosencarlo at 185 pounds, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a little bit more volume, but it wasn't much else. Some attempted takedowns that didn't work for anything. Nobody really took any damage. I mean, the worst damage Brunson or Cannonier took was from an eye poke. So, I mean, realistically, like it was boring. Izzy knows. I mean, John Jones laid the groundwork. Go point people to death, and they will not take the belt from the champ. Now, Rose didn't get the same benefit of the doubt, but Izzy is considered one of the middleweight goats, so he is going to get that benefit of the doubt, and he doesn't have to do that. But just like I said with Strickland, you don't get to just sit back and point Pereira to death. Well, he comes after you, and he touches you from a long distance, and Izzy knows that better than anybody. So he's not going to – we're going to see we have to see a different Izzy next fight, or we're going to have an and news what's going to happen. He has to fight a different fight.
My biggest fear of the Alex Pereira fight and Izzy fight is it's going to be like the Yoel Romero Izzy fight, and that's my biggest fear because that fight was a snooze fest as well. I mean, Izzy has been
this fight's been snoozing.
yeah, his fights have been snooze fest. I mean, he gives us a good production into the ring, into the octagon, and after that, you might as well just go to bed because I mean. It's been boring. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, does he, Anderson Silva is considered one of the GOATs and especially the GOAT of the middleweight division.
Absolutely.
Like, does Izzy got to start knocking some dudes out to get up to that level of Anderson? Like let's just say he wins, matches Anderson's like record, but I mean, Anderson knocked folks out almost every damn time in this stretch. Does Izzy got to start doing that to be considered on the level of Anderson here, or even if he ties Anderson's like defense record for middleweight? Kenny, like, is that kind of where you're at too?
Yeah, 100%. I said it in group last night. People keep wanting to bring Izzy's name up in the middleweight GOAT. Silva started his career with finishing 14 of 16 fights, and he had more finishes, like I said, in the first 3 fights of his UFC career than Izzy has in his entire UFC career. Izzy is obviously one of the most talented strikers. Everybody knows that. Listen to the broadcast. They're very Izzy biased. They will tell you how great of a striker he is. And you can see he throws from great angles. He throws from great distances. But you have to he's not exciting anymore. We're sitting here talking about boring Izzy fights, and this is a dude with how many title defenses? Maybe a GOAT? You shouldn't be talking about boring fights with a guy like that. We never talked about that with Silva. Never talked about it up until he got his leg broke by Weidman. Well, really got caught by Weidman and then broke his leg. Up until then, Anderson Silva was the baddest dude on the planet, any division, any weight class, pound for pound king, no doubt about it. Izzy's not even the pound for pound king right now, so he's never going to be able to be the middleweight GOAT in my eyes until he starts finishing dudes. And I think he's too far along. He's going to get records and retire before he finishes enough fights to be the middleweight GOAT in my eyes.
Frank, Izzy said he had an off night last night, but I feel like this has been, he's had several off nights, about 4 or 5 different off nights. Yeah, Kenny's throwing up the 5. I mean, what's your take here? Like, I mean, how many more off nights are we going to give Izzy?
Kenny, right on the money, brother. Props, man. Right on the money. And I'm going to pick up with that because seriously, I mean, that was right on the money. And I was literally follow up after that. And I like the passion with that. I can tell that, like, someone that respects, the game and championships, disappointing, very disappointing champion. And the people that, put him up there with GOAT status, the only thing he has, the only reason why he's not on the prelims is because he's got that belt. because his fight and the respect, I respect him as a fighter, as his former, but you got almost there is a duty as a champion, as a face, and he is a face of the franchise. I think he's been a great ambassador for the sport. He stands up, he speaks his mind. I mean, obviously, you heard what he said about the whole Joe Rogan situation. Respect that 100%. He's an ambassador, so people are looking at him. Don't go out there and flop around. Like show some dignity. Go out there and fight. Remember a couple fights ago when he looked at him in his eyes and he said, "I'm prepared to die." Where's that Izzy?
He's long gone. He's long gone.
And that wasn't even. And look, you're absolutely right. Long gone. And he made the point about like he might be too far along to start knocking dudes out. What we're seeing right now from this Izzy up until retirement, this is it. Put him on the prelims.
Oh, prelim Izzy. I like it, Frank.
Put him on the prelims. Don't worry.
Yeah, Ken, great point, by the way. I know that you're talking, dude. That was an incredible take. And I was happy to follow up right with that because, like I said, the passion, I felt it. And the same here with me. Like, you got a duty. You have a duty. Look at the champs. Look at the champs we got. Kamaru Usman, he will adapt to the fighter against him. Like Kobe Covington's a straight-up fighter. They stand up and he'll go. He's actually a wrestler. Like the respect level. It's almost a respect level, too. You know what? You want to stand up and go? I'll adjust my game. Let's do this.
I think you're right. Speaking of Usman, I felt like he learned from the first Masvidal fight where that was a boring fight where he just literally toe stomped him and people were disappointed. His last fights have been exciting. You know what I mean?
Never saw him do that again, man. He came out and he knew what he was going to do. And I'm so sorry to cut you off, Bob. It's like he knew exactly what he was going to do. And he talks about it. Like when he fought Covington, he said, I missed by a half inch. I timed it. And then that's when he cracked him and got him. And that's when he ended up finishing him. I mean, realistically, and I've got to see a lot of great fighters, and Usman may be the best fighter I've ever seen.
That's another argument for another day. But no, you're right on, Frank. Like I said, I just think that he learned from that. You're getting paid, but it's also a show. You know what I mean? The more, the better. Those are people who reason love Conor McGregor and things like that because he was knocking folks out in highlight reel fashions. And that's what Izzy's got to learn is, people are going to get more behind you. You're probably going to get more money. He's already getting paid a lot by the UFC, but if you're putting on a hell of a show in the octagon, you're going to get the fans behind you, and the UFC then is going to get behind you as well.
It's the integrity of the sport. It's the integrity of the sport. It's the integrity of a champion. I mean, that overcomes most because you're at the top of your game. Realistically, you have the belt. You're at the top of your game. There is a duty and there's integrity when it comes to that. Go out there, defend your belt. Not even like put on the show. Show why you're the champion. Don't play defense. Go out there and knock somebody out. Prelim Izzy. Hashtag prelim Izzy. I'm rolling with it.
All right. I got one. So I got an update here. Come to find out, Volkanovski broke his hand in the first round of the fight last night. So he is beating the shit out of Max Holloway with one freaking hand. So, I mean, I just had to get that out.
That's a take right there. Hold on a second. So he beat Max with a broken hand. He may take for Charles.
For 4 rounds. For 4 rounds with one hand.
He might take Charles with full hands.
Broke his hand. So that he obviously is going to need some time there to heal up. But, yeah, just came across the wire there. I just picked up the phone and saw the update. Said Volk broke his hand in the first round and still pieced up Max with one freaking hand. So I want to get you guys' we talked all about the card here from prelims all the way up to the main event. Last question here before we get everybody out of here. What's your overall grade of this card last night? A through F here. Frank, you're the special guest here. We'll go with you. You're great on last night's card.
Yeah, and I'm definitely gonna give it to you. I just have one little question. Where did you see the broken hand? From that
was on Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report just updated it. Yep.
Thank you. Great on the card. Great on the card. I'll do this. Going into the fight. Going into it, we talked about it. I gave this like a good B+. I mean, on paper, this was incredible. Dude, this was a C minus. Yeah, the two, 3 really good fights. That is real fight. Is just really putting a damper. I mean, like as someone that's done this, the integrity. It gets me a little personal. Like Yeah, you gotta go out there and you gotta show more, man. It's just it's ridiculous, but I'm giving it a C.
Kenny, what's your thoughts here? What grade are you giving this card?
Kind of the same, honestly. Honestly, I had a little more hype going in, I think, than Frank did. I probably gave it an A going in. I thought it was a great card for International Fight Week. I think you kind of look at two title fights, big fight seller and a Sean Strickland, the dude that knocked out Izzy and Pereira. So I think you look at the card, you had Sugar on it, and you had Robbie Lawler. I thought it was a great card going in. It's hard to bookend it with a no contest and then a boring decision fight. The three fights in the middle were amazing. I mean, the three fights in the middle were great. You brought up earlier, Watkins, the Volk Holloway decision was much different than the Izzy Cannonier decision. It was much different, exciting fight. It was a 50-45 decision that was exciting to watch start to finish, and most of them aren't like that. So I'll probably give it I'll be a little nicer and give it a C+ just because we got a couple knockouts, but it's hard to give it anything more than that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of right with you, Kenny. I thought this card was an A+, really going in. When you read the lineup, I mean, it got taken a little bit away of the Murphy Tate, but even without that fight, it was still a hell of a lot better than some other fights that they make you pay $75 to $80 for. It was a fight that you felt pretty comfortable paying that kind of money for, I thought, from top to bottom. But when you're pay-per-view and you pay that, and two of the 5 fights fail to live up to the billing for whatever reason, you get a low grade because, I mean, that is what it is. You know what I mean? We had 3 good fights. I thought the Max Holloway Volkanovski was it wasn't even a great fight. It was just one-sided fight, but it was a great fight by Alex Volkanovski. So I'm kind of give it a C- here. So, C- somewhere in there. I mean, that's just kind of where it is.
C- out of me. Why don't you just throw the old C out there? We'll be the C's.
Yeah. I mean, we can just average it out, our 3 grades, and just give it a C. We'll give it on a curve and just give this card a C. Disappointing. I mean, really, that's what it came down to. It is disappointing from top to, as far as what we expected it to be and then what it was, but for whatever reason. Frank, one last time, tell people where we can find you at, follow you, and give those plugs one last time before we get everybody out of here.
Yeah, well, one last time, Ken Bodkins, thank you so much for having me be a part of this. This was, it was kind of like just following up from last night. You guys got something incredible here, and more than happy to always join and help out any way I can. Twitter, Frankie Stask is my personal, at Frankie Stask. That's a lot of my media stuff like that. My podcast, Frank the Tank Podcast, going strong, at Tankin41 on Twitter. Obviously, the Frank the Tank Show on Facebook, and my personal Frankie James on Facebook. Reach out to me. If there's anything I can ever do for any of you, your viewers, I'm sure we'll be in contact. Once again, guys, you guys are doing this was incredible. Great show, great knowledge all the way around. You guys, not to say that bad word. You guys know your shit. You guys know your shit, man. Seriously, I mean, this is a sport that I devoted some time to. I love, and I still talk to some of the gents. You guys know your shit, and I'm happy to get some of these fighters on here for you guys to interview. You guys are good stuff, man. Good. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thanks, Frank. We appreciate it. Yeah. Me and Kenny have been talking sports for over 20 plus years. Like I said, I mean, that's
There's no hockey though there, Bodkins.
Hey, Kenny knows the hockey. You see he's rocking the Blues hat.
I saw that. I wanted to point that out, and I figured after you guys shut it down, we'll have a conversation. We'll talk afterwards. Yeah, for sure.
One of us cover the hockey. Me's not so much. But Kenny, I'm going to let you cut a promo on Craig here before you get out. I mean, Craig's still locked in the hooker. He texted me and said he was sick, but I don't believe that. I mean, Craig, crabs is an excuse to miss a podcast. So Kenny, I'm gonna let you cut a promo on Craig as the new champ, as you took the title last night, being the crown king of UFC 276. Pick him here. Frank, if you want to come on our pre-show and join us and have a crack at the title next month or at the end of 278, or 277, you're more than welcome to. It'll give Kenny another challenger here but Kenny taking it home, perfect record. I'm gonna let you cut a quick promo on Craig and we'll get out of here on that.
Listen, Craig ain't sick of nothing but taking a whooping like he belongs. All right, I ain't the new champ. I've always been the champ. Craig was just feeling my belt so that he had a chance to not quit. We can't run him off too early. You know what I mean? Here he is, took one beating, and he already ain't showing up. So obviously we knew what was coming. Craig, bring my belt home, son. I told you it belonged to me.
All right, folks, this has been another great episode of the Bodkin Show. Again, I'll be on the Sports Buffoons podcast tomorrow. Make sure you check it out. Hey, we're still giving the giveaway, folks. We're 6 people away from 50 subscribers on the YouTube, and we're giving out our very first giveaway, very first ever made Bodkins Show t-shirt. So hit the subscribe button, get us to 50, and then you'll be in the drawing to one of you lucky 50 subscribers. Our first 50 subscribers will get the first ever made Bodkins t-shirt giveaway. So hit the sub button, hit the share button. Frank, Kenny, I appreciate y'all coming on. It's been a pleasure. It's been a wild one. We're going to hashtag Izzy Prelim, Frank. So we appreciate it.
I'm one of the t-shirts. I'm pretty excited about those t-shirts. I think you can find
all right. Appreciate it, y'all. Thank you.